a movie. It's a B-movie show. It's like a movie. It's a B-movie show.
Hey every pony, I'm PonyFanboy. I fanboy over ponies and you just listen, and welcome back to the second episode of Nightmare Week. Today we're going to be looking at a creepypasta based on the Nickelodeon/Disney show Doug. Now there were tons of different Doug creepypastas that I could look at, but today we're going to be looking at the creepypasta called Doug's Real Life. So this pasta begins with somebody telling us that the show Doug used to be a very negative and sad show because it was always about a kid who thought that he was always going to do something wrong until he eventually got it right in the end. And they kept dreaming about it until eventually they, for some reason, one day in the summer of 2005, started airing episodes of Doug for an entire week straight. All the episodes were perfectly normal until Friday night they aired an episode that was very different and changed the perception of Doug for the rest of this person's life. In the intro, lines were still being drawn, but Doug wasn't interacting with them, and the last few seconds of the intro just showed Doug in his room drawing on a notepad, but it was very darkly lit. Despite a couple of random flashing sequences, the episode started off pretty normal, with Doug just getting ready for a big test coming up, but he forgot to study for it. Doug took the test, but he didn't do very good, and so now he has a fantasy of everybody laughing at him and being humiliated by it. And the next day, when Doug's walking down the hallway and being laughed at, all of a sudden, all the colors turn negative. But then in the next scene, they're totally fine again. As Doug walks home, all of a sudden the house becomes very decrepit and his dog friend Porkchop is just a rotting piece of meat. After Doug talks to his sister and then some imaginary people, I guess, the screen flashes and everything goes back to normal on the screen. As Doug talks to his family over dinner, he then has a fantasy about his parents yelling at him for flunking the test, and for some reason they become giant and they have twisted red faces. The episode ends with Doug in his room writing in his journal as he's talking about reality and fantasy, as he says, "I can't tell which one is real." So overall, this creepypasta is decent, but it's a little too short. I mean, it's even shorter than babysitting. I feel like this is the kind of pasta that's made for someone who likes a story that's a little bit more open-ended and not really filled with the kind of cliche creepypasta stuff like hyper-realistic eyes and stuff, which I typically don't mind if it's done well in an MLP creepypasta. But I feel like this pasta is based more on sadness than it is scares, so if you want a more open-ended, sad type of creepypasta, I recommend checking this one out. And that's why I give this pasta 5.5 pork chops out of 10. Tune in next time where we talk about a dog.